How's it going?
It's
Who
going
have we got
well.
here? We've got Ahmed, Kate, and Faraha.
Yes.
Diane. Sweet.
People
All
are
right,
joining,
guys.
people are joining, and more are on their way.
Okay, perfect. So, welcome to the Love Lab. My name is Louise. Should I start, or let me just go ahead a little bit?
Before we start,
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you, is it okay if we stream this on Facebook or YouTube, or we just keep it here? What do you think?
So basically what it's quite an interactive process. And one of the things I will ask is for if participants are able to share. So I don't know, I think for the safety of the shares and the process, it might be better just to keep it here. I'm not sure. But then again, it depends. It depends what we're sharing. So I think that's actually a question for the group.
Yeah, what does everyone think? You can unmute or tell us in the chat. Would you like it live streamed or we keep it here? Please let us know. I don't mind it being live streamed. What about Kate, Diane? Okay, I think personally, because as you said, it's going to be people sharing.
Yeah.
I think it would be a safer space if we did it here.
Yeah, because I mean, I think live streaming is quite nice in terms of like people getting a feel for it. But the way that I do work is exactly as Kate's saying, it is a safe space.
Yeah.
And that's sort of the idea, because I'm not going to do a talk. I'll explain a little bit about what I do, etc. But then it's very much a shared space where we're basically encouraged to raise consciousness together. So, you know, the more perspectives we can get, the higher the consciousness goes.
Yes, got it.
Sweet.
Yeah, so when you're ready to start.
Okay, thank you. So yeah, I'll encourage you guys, feel free to you know, as much as you're comfortable, to unmute yourselves and to join the video call. As we've decided as a group that it'll be a safe space here, so it's just us in the space. Yeah, so the process will be one of sharing, and like I mentioned a bit earlier, like basically whenever people ask me what I do, there's so many ways to summarize it, but the one thing I would say is the underlying theme is that the process is one of raising consciousness. So the more perspectives we get, and the more people share, the higher the consciousness goes. So I really do encourage you to share. I will be asking a few questions, so if you feel comfortable to share, just go ahead, unmute yourself and share, or you can share in the chat if you're more comfortable with that. So yeah, thank you for joining me here on this space. So basically, my name is Louise, and I'm a positive psychologist and coach. And basically, positive psychology is the scientific study of happiness and well-being. And it focuses a lot on positive emotions, the perspective we choose to have about anything, whether it's a challenge or a tough time. A lot of the time, the perspective and the awareness and the consciousness we have around what we're going through, and ultimately also the intention, what we want out of it, makes a huge difference about how we navigate our lives. So it's all about raising consciousness and awareness about who we are and what we want, and activating our lives in a way that we get there. Welcome, Nimi. Thank you for joining us. So I'm just doing a quick introduction. And so basically science shows that when we experience positive emotions, it basically broadens and builds our capacities. So when we experience a positive emotion, we tend to open up, so our energy just opens up. So we have higher cognitive capacities, higher behavioral and social capacities, along with the fact that science shows that when we experience positive emotions, our immune systems are stronger, our cardiovascular systems are stronger, and just physically we get less sick the more we experience positive emotions, but also emotions in general. So, the power of emotions, I mean, I'm sure we're all slightly aware that they're very powerful energies, emotions, and positive psychology is sort of the a school of harnessing that power and using it for your highest benefit, consciously, intentionally. So there's a few things that are central towards positive emotions. One of them is just the positive emotions themselves, the way we engage with things. A huge part of experiencing positive emotions for us as humans, as social animals, is relationships, the type of relationships we have. Because as social animals, as sort of flock animals, without those social connections, especially, back when we were cavemen or women, our very survival was at risk if we didn't have a good social group around us. So we are biologically made to crave positive experiences and bonds and connections with other people. So our very biology and inner instincts, survival instincts, crave good quality connections in our lives. And sort of without them, we feel at risk. And although, we live in a modern society where things are different, it's still a prime need of ours to experience positive relationships in general. Other areas are also having meaning in life, purpose, passion, and feeling accomplished, feeling like we're getting somewhere, basically. So one of the most potent areas to explore positive psychology, happiness, and well-being is in your relationships. Because the relationships we have in our lives, whether it's at work, family, friends, romantic, basically ripple through our physical fibers, our social fibers, our energetical fibers. And when we have positive reinforcing relationships, it literally ripples out positive, happy, and strong, healthy cultures. So that's where I focus a lot of my work. Specifically as well on romantic relationships, because as we all know, romantic relationships is the relationship that tends to be most highly charged. There's a lot of energy there. So when we make that energy a positive, reinforcing, supportive, growth, authentic one, it's like having armor in all other areas of your life. It literally buffers against stresses in life, and just creates a fertile soil for all other areas. So there's both the positive romantic relationship side, and then there's also the positive emotional side, because we also have our own internal processes. And so there's a lot of science around love, and there's a lot of theories around love. And it is suggested that love is potentially the most powerful positive emotion we can experience. So I want to put a question out there to you guys, because basically science it's theories, and it's the science that gets published tends to be the theories that have been proven, affirmed again and again, but they are still theories. So the question I would like to put out to you guys before we go any further is, what is love? So what is love to you? If you can think of a time when you've experienced love, what would you say love is? So I'll give you a few minutes to share. And also just take a few minutes to think about it. Love is connection. I like that. Ultimate truth. Let me open the chat. Okay, so we've got love is connection. Love is the ultimate truth, the force of the universe, all that matters. For me, love having mutual trust towards one another. Love is an experience of oneself. Yeah. So, love is, and the great thing about this discussion and the process we're in is there's no right or wrong here. There's just lots and lots of different perspectives, and that's where the juice is really in the sharing, is to hear all of these perspectives and to widen our own consciousness and perspectives around the process. So love sustains life. Yeah. So there's some really lovely answers here. Connection, ultimate truth, the force of the universe, all that matters. So then I'll ask another question, and I just ask it out of curiosity. Does love have any boundaries? Where does it exist? It's everywhere. So Ahmed said, I think love must have boundaries. You need to know yourself to be able to love the other person. Men man kan du göra det här sen så vore det jättetrevligt. Ah. So my mom's just decided to join us, so welcome, Mum. Okay, here we go. So love is everywhere. I think love must have boundaries. You need to know yourself to be able to love the other person. I think love is, we just need to allow it, get out of the way. Yes, love has boundaries. Where does it exist? In the mind and the body of the individual. Yeah, I like these answers. So basically, I'm just basing my questions on your guys' answers. Love can be experienced everywhere, anywhere, but first you have to experience for yourself to understand it. So there is a few yeses here to love having boundaries. So my question is there anyone who feels that love does not have boundaries? And if they can expand on that. And also for those of you who feel that love does have boundaries, what are those boundaries? Mamma snälla nån. Boundaries are those that put the giver or receiver in a position of discomfort or create dependencies. So boundaries are those that put the giver or receiver in a position of discomfort or create dependencies. Devika, could you expand on that? What do you mean by that?
Hi, everyone. Okay, so what I meant is that, so what I meant by boundaries in that sense is that it should not, I guess the word in French is exigence, or basically in English would be that demands something that is not in the capacity of the giver to give or the receiver to receive. So something that is yeah, when it is not what the giver would like to give. Say if I imagine a circle, and that boundary for me is a circle, and something that is stepping beyond that circle for the individual, when that when that person is, I guess, pushed to do certain things or behave in certain ways, or take out certain things that might be beyond the capacities of that individual at that point of time. Of course, the circle can increase as it does at different points of time and with different individuals. It has no fixed boundaries, but it is a sort of a non-verbal commitment or engagement in that way. And dependency, I meant that I really believe that love should not create dependencies, in the sense that I have observed a lot of relationships where the sense of love, of course, comes from a lot of empathy, compassion, but it might at a point of time turn out to be harmful, because then the giver cannot lives off that love, right, in different ways. So I do feel like both the giver and the receiver should be aware of not creating that sense of bad energy that might happen in the future. Voila. Thank you.
Thank you, Devika. Thank you for that beautiful share. Okay, so in the context of love, so that's, I think, from what Devika is saying, in the context of love, please correct me as we go along. But that love is not codependent. And where would you put the boundaries in the context of love? So that, I guess, in a
I guess by boundaries, I mean, first boundary comes as physical, like the body should not be harmed, clearly, in any sense of loving, that there has to be respect to the body of the giver and receiver. So that's my first boundary when I'm thinking about it. And then in the more non-material way, where we're not talking about the body, but in different other forms of loving, I guess it's to understand what is that giver, what is that boundary of that giver. So in terms of, is it exacting a lot out of him or her in terms of her time or her energy, or his or her presence at that point of time. So both the giver and the receiver being aware of that boundary, I guess.
Yeah. Okay, lovely. Thank you. And so there's also a lot of people who or at least someone up here said something about there's love is also an experience. I had just off the top of my head that it's an experience of the self, and also that it's something that just is, and we just have to move out of the way. So I wonder if we can take a moment to explore within the love that is within ourself. So before I offer some theories or one of probably my favorite theory on love, but it's what about love and the self, and what do we think about this concept of, like, what is self-love first and foremost, and this concept of how open are we to receive love? Is it a matter that love is all around us and we just need to open up to it, or is it something that we create? And what is the relationship between love and the self is ultimately my question.
I'd like, I was like, it's too much to text, to write. But I feel like self-love is giving to yourself what you want other people to give to you. Like giving yourself what you need. And instead of searching for it elsewhere, you give it to yourself.
Yeah. Is that then like basic needs, or also just like, for example, that makes me think of love languages. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with love languages, but science shows, you know, that I think there's 5, and you guys might need to help me remember them off by head, but there's acts of service, physical touch, quality time, words of affirmation, and then there's one more, if anyone can think about it. But sorry?
Gifting.
Yes, well done, that's the one. So in terms of giving to yourself, is it giving yourself love, or is it giving yourself needs? And how do you mean giving to yourself?
I mean, I think everything, the physical needs, the emotional needs, you know, the support, giving yourself the positive affirmations, giving yourself gifts, giving yourself touch.
Mm-hmm.
So I think you're even giving yourself quality time to be with yourself. So it's like, yeah, all those things that you depend on other people for, you give them to yourself.
Yeah. So ultimately giving yourself what it is that you want and need.
Yeah.
Nice. Okay, so we've got here, love can be experienced everywhere, anywhere, but first you have to experience for yourself to understand it. Oh, sorry, let me go down a bit. Love is all around. We have to open up to receive it. Love has to be actively created. It's a garden that needs weeding and work. I think the self is not the real you. The real you is consciousness, having an experience through the ego, having space between the real you and yourself, and being able to hold the tension between them lightly. That is the beginning of love. Okay, I'm going to read that one again, Diane, so we can digest it. I think the self is not the real you. The real you is consciousness, having an experience through the ego. Having space between the real you and yourself, and being able to hold the tension between them lightly, that is the beginning of love. Okay, I like that. So self-love is to fill your cup and be able to give and receive more and more of love. It is the only way you can push your capacity to love others and live better. Okay, I love all of these answers, guys. So there's different perspectives coming up here. One is that it's all around us and it's already there, and it's a matter of us opening up to it. And then there's also the perspective of it's something that we can also actively create. And it doesn't necessarily have to be that it's one or the other. It could also be both. You know, for me, I think that all perspectives can co-occur. So I'd love to share with you guys a theory on love that is based by a positive psychologist called Barbara Friedrichsen, who's basically designated her career to the study of positive emotions and has done a lot of the research around how positive emotions affect our lives, basically benefit us physically, mentally, socially, cognitively, behaviorally. She has a theory that has been proven that basically when we experience positive emotions, we then the way that she sort of defines an emotion is that it's a fleeting energy. It's an energy of like a micro moment, and when we experience a micro moment of positive emotion, we open up, and because we open up, you know, socially, mentally, whatever it is, we create these upward spirals that just compound on each other and reaffirm and reaffirm and reaffirm. And of course, there's both ways, right? You can have a negative spiral. We all know when we have a bad day, things tend to close down. It's the same thing when we experience positive emotions, things open up. And as we build these micro moments, we basically open our lives up. We open ourselves up to opportunity. We open ourselves up to more positive emotions and more benefits, essentially. So she sees love as a fleeting emotion, something that we experience. And she narrows it down, I would say, from my perspective, to a connection we have with another human being, where we experience three things. One is a positive emotion. The second is that we are able to mirror each other. So I'm sure you guys have seen with babies, etc. One of the things that we as humans do is mirror each other. So if someone is even energetically, if someone's got a really hectic energy and they come into the room, you sort of start to feel your energy getting quite hectic. And it's the same with babies. You'll see, for example, if you've ever stuck your tongue out at a baby, they might copy you. Or if you open your eyes really big, they also do that. So she says that, you know, in this emotion of love, there's three things co-occurring. One is that you're both experiencing a positive emotion, and then your bodies synchronize biologically and chemically so that you mirror each other. So there's a deeper understanding, and it's not just a mental understanding, it's an energetical understanding. And then the third thing is that there is a mutual care, so that there's a feeling that you genuinely care about the well-being of the other person. So there's a moment of being bigger, of life being bigger than the self. She argues, and this is where it, you know, gets juicy, because we can all, you know, we all have our different truths, but she argues that this is something that doesn't necessarily need to happen between husband or wife or family members. It can also happen a fleeting moment on the subway between you and someone else, and you both see something or whatever, and you both have the same thought, you mirror, and you have a moment of love, a fleeting one. But where it builds is where you have reoccurring opportunity to experience that experience over and over and over, and it builds on each other. So there's a couple of things that, you know, and this is where she puts love between two people. Personally, I question it as one aspect of love, one perspective of love, because it's the love that exists between two people. But I feel that love exists outside of people as well. But she theorizes that in this instance, love is not something that exists necessarily in you or the other person. It exists in the space between you. And there's a couple of energies or feelings that are a prerequisite in order to be able to feel this, that exist within yourself. So, and this sort of ties on to, you know, this idea of opening up in order to receive love, and also it ties into cultivating love. So how do we open up to love? How do we cultivate love? I'll put that question out there. And also any other thoughts on the theories that I've just shared, any other insights, perspectives, also welcome. Yeah, so Kate's sharing here, self-love is filling your cup to the full, and anyone else can partake what has poured on the saucer. So my question then with the same question here is, how do you fill your cup up? How do you open yourself up? So seeing the beauty in people, accepting as they are. In my experience, stillness and awareness is the beginning of opening to love, silencing ego. Yeah, acceptance is a really lovely exploration as well, both within ourselves and with other people. Conscious Kenya says, I love the saucer analogy, Kate. Analogy, whatever. Analogy. Yeah, stillness and awareness is the beginning of opening to love. Stillness and awareness, silencing ego. What is the ego saying that prevents us, that's closing us down, I wonder? And what does the stillness and awareness offer that allows us to open? So it's telling me that I'm separate from everything, and in the stillness, I start to see that I'm not. I love that. Yeah. Yeah. I love, so my own personal experience in the stillness as well is that you also start to feel it. Whereas the mind can be very, it has its own process. But for me, when I manage to quiet my mind, you can then start to feel more. You start to feel the physical sensations. And one of the things that's been beautiful for me the past couple of months is the experience of physically experiencing the sensations of the energy around me and actually being able to feel the connection that we all have, which is, scientifically proven, that at least on planet Earth, everything is made out of atoms and we're all vibrating, so even though these atoms in the air here, it's not like banging a table, they're few, but they're still vibrating, they're still touching, and they're touching all the way around us. And sometimes when I meditate, I can actually start to feel them vibrating. So I really love that and resonate with that as well. So let me offer up. So Barbara Friedrichsen suggests that a couple of things that we need, a bit like you guys have said here, in order to experience love is a feeling of safety. So in order to open up, in order to, look people in the eye, because eye contact is another big one as humans, where it was really interesting. I read this scientific study where basically on face expressions, because we have face expressions and we do tend to, as social beings, we do tend to mirror face expressions because we want to be part of the group. We have this innate need to belong as part of our survival mechanism. So we tend to imitate facial expression. So if someone's laughing, even if you don't know what they're laughing about, you might find that you start smiling. And it's the same with children. Again, they're prime examples of this. And so they did a study where they basically exposed a test subject to different types of smiles. And some of them were like fake smiles and some of them were genuine smiles, and just like different types of smiles, and try to get the test subject to determine, which one was a fake smile, which one was authentic smile, and it was a bit of a struggle. And then the one thing they found, the big difference there, is that when you're able to look into someone's eyes, it's like this is not how they put it scientifically, but this is how I'm going to phrase it. it's like a gateway to their soul and their energy. So whether you can see the face expression around it, when you look into their eyes, you basically get a free download of their energy. And you basically, because we're built to mirror each other and understand each other, and we're built to have these deep connections. So when we look into each other's eyes, we get basically a download of their energy. I think, Kate, you're on mute. Perfect, thank you. So yeah, so basically eye contact I found that's amazing, because if you're ever wondering about someone's intention or something, eye contact is a big one. But we do not tend to seek for eye contact when we're not feeling safe. When we're in an environment where we don't feel safe, we don't tend to look people in the eyes. We tend to sort of keep our eyes down. It's sort of like a, I don't know, maybe a submissive thing or whatever, but most of all just a safety thing. So one of the prerequisites for love, she argues, is that we have to feel safe. We have to be able to look into each other's eyes, because that is that's where we automatically can mirror each other and share experiences, share emotions, share energy. So my question then would be, how do we cultivate this safety? Yes, eyes are the windows to the soul. How do we cultivate safety so that we may be open to love? And what practices do you guys adopt to feel safe? How do we practice and cultivate safety? Okay. So Devika is saying, I've struggled with safety recently. Me too, Devika, me too. My inner therapist helped me to create an inner space where I can go in and replenish. I love that. So one of the things that I do, so this is the Love Lab for everyone, so it's just a general exploration of love. But one of the things that I do is I hold love labs for couples, where they're events, and I can hold them online, but we've also been holding them in person with several couples at the same time. And in that process, I basically share the practices that science shows are the most beneficial for cultivating positive emotion, satisfaction, intimacy, love, and yeah, ultimately, positive, lasting romantic relationships. And there's 7 practices that we share, and each love lab we deep dive into one, and I'll share the information. But as we all know, it's one thing to know and another thing to practice and cultivate something. So we spend that time practicing and cultivating. And one of the things that I do in the beginning of every one of these love labs is exactly what Davika is sharing here, is to create an inner safe space where you can go in and replenish. And what I do then with the couples is between the two of them, first as a group, we all explore our own, eyes closed, our own internal process of finding that safe space, of creating it. And then the couples within themselves have like a sign language. So they'll be like, maybe it's like, I know, just for ease of example, it's like this. And when your partner does that, no matter where you are or whatever's going on, whatever the discussion is, it's a sign that your partner's no longer feeling safe. And you both take time to go back and tap into your safe space, however long it takes. Open your eyes, wait for your partner if they're not ready already. And then when you come back into the space, whoever was speaking, it was still their turn to speak, and the process continues. But it's just a time out to come back to that safe space, because we all know that when things get heated, it just happens so fast, and we say things that aren't constructive. Whereas when we're coming from a safe space, we can be more conscious, we can hold our intention in what we're saying, what we're communicating, and we're more likely to get what we want for ourselves in our romantic relationship out of it. So I love that practice, Davika. In fact, it's one that I also practice a lot, and I really encourage it in all relationships, in all interactions, is to be coming from a safe space when you interact, because that tends to be when we are constructive rather than destructive. And Deanne is sharing breath work, meditation, absolutely. Shadow work, absolutely. Yeah, all of these are amazing. I definitely also love meditation, breath work, shadow work. And I wonder if you could share a little bit, you don't need to go into detail about your about your own process, but just to give a nice idea about what shadow work means, if there's anyone out there who would like a little bit more information, or just to know, like, what does shadow work entail? Yeah. And in the meantime, I'm going to think about my own safety processes. I think a big part of being safe as well is, definitely breathing. I love the breathing, because you can basically, when you take deep breaths, like I think we can all just take one now together, why not? Take a deep breath in. Breathe it all the way up to the top of your head and maybe tap it and hold it there. And exhaling. Maybe we'll just do one more for good luck. Deep breath in. Holding it at the top. And exhaling. I don't know about you guys, but immediately my energy relaxes. And that's because we have triggered our parasympathetic nervous system, our rest and recover parasympathetic nervous system. Versus the one where we are running and hurrying, stressed, whatever. And just 2 deep breaths in the middle of a really stressful moment, or a really pressurized board meeting makes such a difference. And actually, one of the things that science shows, within emotion theories, is that when you're able to relax, like we just did with those deep breaths, let's say you're in a board meeting and there's a lot of pressure going on and whatever, when you take those deep breaths, it literally opens up your mind again, because being relaxed it's a positive experience. So it opens up your mind so that you can actually be sharper in the meeting. Your brain gets more solution focused because your cognitive capacity opens up. So does your behavioral, as well as your capacity to connect. I'm going to stick with this example in a meeting, but I don't know if you guys have ever noticed, like, the way that the energy we have with other people makes such a big difference, even at work or whatever. So, I'll take an example. The other day, I was at the airport, domestic flight, and I didn't know we needed our visa stamps. So there's a lady in front of me in the queue, and she's got the right visa, but they can't find it in her passport because she's got so many stamps. And she starts losing her shit and getting a bit unfriendly. And immediately 3 police officers, it gets quite tense. And then I'm there being like, shit, because I actually don't have my visa stamp. I brought my new passport on me, but it doesn't have that stamp. So then it's my turn, and I was just as friendly, relaxed as I could possibly be, because that's how I wanted to feel, even though I wasn't, but I was friendly, I was relaxed. I should let her see my passport. And I'm so sorry, miss, it's a domestic flight. I didn't know you needed my visa. So it's in my old passport. I just brought my new passport. And she let me through. Whereas if I put up that fuss, I'll probably be in the police station, to be honest. Stress. So, in those stressful situations, if you're having a really important meeting with your boss, or with your partner, or with a really important situation, if you're able to relax into it so that your cognitive, behavioral and social capacities can open up, you can connect with the people, you're way more likely to get whatever it is your intention is for that meeting through. So that may be a little of a sidetrack, but that's what was coming up. Okay, so tapping. Yes, tapping is a really nice one. I'd love to hear, Diane, if you're open to it. So I also came across tapping the other day, and what I found is, like, because you tend to sort of tap like, okay, I'm feeling angry, and it's sort of like an acceptance. I'm feeling angry, but now it's getting better, or whatever. And it's really helpful to just process the emotions, and then they tend to move through. But what I was looking for and I couldn't find was, I was wondering if you can do tapping with positive affirmations. And then when I started to think about that, I got a little bit confused about the tapping, because I just got a little bit confused. So I was wondering, Diana, put that out there for you. Have you found tapping with positive affirmations? Okay, so Ahmed said, I meditate on what is causing me to have insecurities and face them head on, facing your own demon, facing your fears. And this is response, I believe, to shadow work. I love that. Because for me, I've also, there's, from my point of view at the moment, there is a lot of energy in the air. There's a lot of high, we've just had a full moon, and boy, can I feel it. There's so much coming up. And I am a firm believer that when things come up, it is for a reason. We are to feel it, but it's also an invitation, just like triggers can be an invitation to grow if we take a moment to be conscious, aware about what's triggering us. And that taps into safety, because a lot of time our triggers make us feel unsafe. So we might be, we'll be triggered maybe from tends to be something from the past, because our bodies are ultimately made for survival. So science shows that while we tend to lean into the light like a plant or a flower, we want to be happy, we want to have a light experience. Our bodies also, on the other end of the spectrum, are made for survival. So they will look for threat. If you've been in a similar situation and something bad happened last time, it will be worried that that's going to happen again. And that is not a bad or good, it's not a bad thing. That's how your ancestors managed to give you life, is by surviving. It is a very good thing to be conscious of, and being conscious of your triggers that make you feel unsafe is a wonderful exploration for building safety around love. So Diane says, have not done tapping with affirmations. I have tried to combine deep breathing, awareness with tapping to move through difficult emotions, to move through different, yeah, exactly. And I think tapping is one, it's really easy. You can actually just YouTube it, EFT, I believe it's called. You do it on YouTube and they'll literally show you how. I think I don't want to give you the wrong information, but it's quite simple. You can find it on YouTube if anyone is interested on that. So that's sort of safety, and safety with this theory from Barbara Fredrickson, and I just think in general in life, it's a good foundation, it's a good practice for being able to then look people in the eye, connect, expand, etc. And a lot of our opportunity, in fact, a huge part of our opportunity in life is having that connection with people as social animals. That's how it tends to work. So another energy or emotion, or whatever we want to define this as, that she says is also something that we need in order to be able to have this love connection with another person, is trust. So I'll put that question out there to you guys. How do we experience trust? How do we cultivate trust? Like after, we've all been through, I'm sure, situations where our trust has been broken. How do we find it again? How do we keep it strong? How do we remember to trust? Oh my goodness, these flies definitely trust me, that's for sure. How do we trust? How do we cultivate trust? Who do we trust? What encourages trust in your life? Being open and honest with each other? Absolutely. Yes. And what about, how do you know that someone is being open and honest with you? How do you know that? How can you trust that someone is being open and honest? Through their eyes. Yes. You've been with us. I loved that scientific nugget when I found it, because I've definitely been in my own process. Trust has been a hard one for me. And it made so much sense when I read that article that if you look someone in the eye, yes, Kate, your instinct, your gut instinct just knows, you know, and then from there we might rationalize and gaslight ourselves or whatever. But when we tend to have an instinct. And yeah, I loved that. I loved when I found that scientific nugget to look at people in the eyes. Yeah, there's a lot to be there. So this is sort of, you know, how we can tell. But what encourages us to trust? Like, what encourages us, first of all, to trust ourselves? Because for me, it's definitely an internal process as well. It's an internal cultivation, a bit like this cup analogy, where we cultivate things on the inside and they become part of our energy field. So how do we cultivate trust in ourselves? What do we do with that instinct? What is the relationship between trust and instinct? And this is an interesting one. I'll share with you a scientific paper that my mum was telling me about today, where they basically had like 3 pens. And let's just say these are the 3 pens. And one was like very evidently taller than the others. And everyone else in the group was aware that this was a scientific like test and what the scientific test was for. And there's one test person, and they asked the group, okay, which pen is the tallest? And the test person went last. And so the rest of the group just said, yeah, this is the tallest one, which was obviously not, this is it. And everyone said that. So when it came to the test person to say it, you know, there's this, again, this need to belong, this want for cohesion in a group. They also said this was the tallest one, even though everyone could clearly see that that was not the case. So there's definitely, you know, situations where our need to belong might challenge our instincts and what our instincts tell us to do. So how do I cultivate trust? I love this instinct. For me, I listened to my instinct as much as I could. And the few times that I didn't, because rationally it made no sense, I consciously didn't. So I was like, okay, my instinct told me not to go to this place, but rationally I said I'd come, all my friends are here, I'm gonna go, and I'll just see what happened. And through that process of listening to my instinct more and being aware of when I didn't, I began to see that I could trust my instinct, because even though rationally it made sense to go to that place, something would happen and I would end up wishing I had stayed at home. Trusting other people, I think it's a practice. Yeah, I'd love to hear if anyone else has got something to say about how you trust other people. Through their actions, how consistent they are. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And that brings us very nicely into another area where, you know, this theory suggests that one of the things that, you know, although love in her sense is a fleeting moment, it's a fleeting emotion, what allows it to build is the opportunity, right? The opportunity to have those fleeting moments, those micro minutes of a love connection with someone else, and the opportunity to have them with that person over and over again, which is then what we start to have cultivate love relationships, long-term relationships, you know, with family members, with friends, with romantic partners, with our children, and we have those moments of deep connection, and that is ultimately one of the things that our bodies crave. And I mean, I feel like I speak for myself, having only lived in my own body, but from what I can see, it seems evident that we all do have this inner craving for deep, meaningful connection with others. Trusting other people is one area I'm struggling with, but I had to follow Emma's way. Yeah, through their actions, how consistent they are. So this is one of the things that she says then, is as you have these deep connections where through their eyes you have a mutual feeling of mutual benefit, and, you know, synced biochemistry. And when your biochemistry syncs through eye contact, it's basically, you can feel the other person's energy. It's a download of their energy, and you just know whatever it is, you just know about them, you know it because you can feel it. And it's through those connections that then allows sort of trust, and it allows us to open, it allows us to feel safe. But again, one of the things that really is enabling is a history, is when you know someone so well and you know their little habits, their little tics, whatever it is, building what Ahmed and Kate are saying about consistency, is that history, that it's something that does build over time. And it, you know, everyone's different. Some people will trust someone immediately, some people will not. And I think ultimately everyone is different and we all have to be true to ourselves. But definitely having these prolonged experiences makes a huge difference. Okay, so one of the things I'd like to end with is just one of something that I found interesting and worthwhile is, you know, in our conscious communities, we do tend to slow down. But if you look at the day and age we live on, when everyone is on their phones, you know, scrolling, or you might go out for dinner and you'll see a whole family on their phone. And given, you know, the exploration we've just had on eye contact, and that in order to biochemically sync and have this connection, you know, then I start to really think about the cultivation of these love connections in modern day society, and the obstacles we face. First of all, you know, with technology that ironically connects us and at the same time disconnects us, and also the fast pace we move at. You know, when you're picking up your coffee on the way to work, you're not there looking for a love connection. You're there being like, give me my coffee, I've got stuff to do, you know. So one of the things that I love is just acknowledging the fact that we have this craving for that interaction with another human being, whether you want to call it love or, you know, positive resonance. It's something that we crave for our very own survival. So we crave it to feel good, and we also crave feeling good, as we all know. So yeah, it's just to slow down and to be open to the opportunities to have these fleeting micro moments of love with everyone around you as you collect your coffee, or, you know, not necessarily forcing it, being like, I'm here to get my coffee, let's have a love moment, but maybe more just like being open to looking people around you in the eye, to having a quick mutual experience that you didn't expect, and just noticing how that changes your day, how it affects your energy when you're able to have them. So I believe my time is up here. And so, yeah, if you liked this exploration with me, I've got a practitioner page on Conscious Kenya. You can find me through there. I also will put my Instagram on. Let me just, my keyboard doesn't have full stops, so I have to copy and paste one from Kate over here. Thank you, Kate. You can follow me on Instagram here, and this is my phone number. If you like the process, if you're interested in exploring some positive psychology, at the moment, a lot of what you'll see about what I'm doing is focused on the emotion of love. But ultimately, I explore all areas of higher self. This year, I'm doing something called the positive perspective, where it's basically explorations within a positive psychology framework, where we basically tap into what you want, you know, your limitless self, your highest potential. We map it out, and then together we activate sections of it. You know, what do you want in your relationships? What do you want in your career? What do you want in your own personal process? And there's basically 8 areas of life where we map out what we want there. And in this process, we activate them. So we see, okay, this is what you want, and how can we activate that? And what's coming up? What challenges and opportunities for growth are coming up as we activate that? And ultimately, it's just a process of raising consciousness within yourself, within the group. We do these explorations, you know, there's potential to do it as a one-to-one if there's something specific that you really want to dive deep into. And we also do them as a group exploration where we can hear different perspectives, as we have here, which basically allows us, which are more general, open, organic processes that just allow us to raise our consciousness as a group. And ultimately, the idea is just to raise consciousness about who we are, what we want, how we connect, the people around us, how we interact with the people around us, and also our planet, our home, and the universal energy that we live in, and to just be conscious about the energies we're cultivating. So yeah, basically, if you want to know more, let me not ramble more about what I do, because I think there's a little taster there. I will be at Cleafy Festival doing something similar here, and also doing one specifically for couples, where I will do a very brief taster of the practices that are the most beneficial to cultivate positive energies in your romantic relationship. And that will be a very brief, just quick taster, because we do usually in the Love Lab spend an afternoon on each one getting into the practice of it. So yeah, that's it for me. And with Grace, I'll hand over to Conscious Kenya and say thank you very much to all of you guys who joined me.
Thank you so much, Louise. That was lovely. Love how
Thank you,
interactive
Praha.
that was. Yeah, and I'm sure everyone enjoyed it. And yeah, connect with her on her IG, in Kilifi and beyond. And yeah, this was amazing. Thank you so much, Louise, for the time and sharing your energy with us.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. And thank you to Conscious Kenya for facilitating this space for us all.
Karibu.
Yeah.
So yes, guys, thanks so much for being here and for participating. So